So I have to give a disclaimer before I start this video because I know there are some people who will watch this video and because the shoe fits, they're going to get triggered, right? Now, as with most of my videos, I am very honest, frank, unapologetic in my perspective, in my expression. And a lot of people resonate with my videos because of those reasons, because I'm so direct. I spare no feelings at all, right? Now, I get it. And I can feel for those people who may get triggered by this video. So I'm going to burn some Palo Santo for you guys. I'm going to burn some Palo Santo for you guys. And let's hope that this video is going to be in sync and very clear. Sometimes my videos get choppy for whatever reason with the internet. But we shall see how things go. I see I'm getting a lot of notifications and that could be cause of the interruption. But we're going to proceed anyhow, right? I'm noticing a pattern in men in the modern world that we live in. For those who follow my channel, like on YouTube, for those who have been keeping up my videos, you guys see that I take interest in blogging about things that pertain to people, especially in relationships, right? I focus a lot on relationship dynamics, alternative relationship dynamics, specifically like BDSM, DS, dominant submissive relationships, cuckolding, you guys' favorite. And being a person that is very observant, being a person that obviously has an affinity towards studying human behavior. I love the way Palo Santo smells. You know? It's just a very pure wood. It's just, it does something to the fibers of my being. I notice patterns, right, in people. And what I've been noticing is a group of men who I would like to describe as having a dick imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about that here in this video. It's unfortunate, right, on one hand, but for those who recognize that they embody these characteristics of this particular syndrome, some have already come to an acceptance of it, right? As the saying goes, in order to fix something, you have to acknowledge that it exists, right? You have to acknowledge that you have it. If you are in denial that this is you, then it's just going to persist, right? And that's the plight of many men, is that they're dealing with this issue, this very significant issue that negatively impacts their relationships, that has a detrimental impact on their self-concept, their self-image, how they see themselves. And then how they see themselves in relation to their counterparts, to women, right? They end up in this vicious cycle that never ends, right? They find themselves in the same repeat pattern. And I have to be honest with men. You know, I come across these men and it's very apparent, those men who are struggling with their identity, different aspects of their identity, right? As, of course, being rooted in the context of society that is forever changing, right? You know, at one point there was a world that shaped the minds of people in such a way where men were proud to be men. Where men were proud to stand very tall in their masculinity. Being a leader, being the head of household, making decisions, right? Asserting themselves, not only in their family dynamics, right? But in society at large. And then as things change, as the tides turn, of course, with pushback from women who had got fed up, right, with the dynamic of having to submit to a man, having to be at a man's beck and call, right, and feeling that they were disempowered and unequal to a man. They felt a sense of inadequacy, right, over the years, right? Then there comes the emergence of these women's-based movements, like the women's rights movement, like feminism. And I get it, right? So men are at the crux. They've come to many different turning points and many different crossroads and having to decipher, like, where do they stand, right? What type of man? Ultimately, the question is asked for themselves. They have to face this. Like, what kind of man am I going to be, right? Am I going to be naturally a dominant man? Or I am going to succumb? Am I going to fold to what society inevitably has kind of forced me to become? Then within that, there lies the internal struggle of many men, right? Because you're born with your own set of DNA. You didn't choose it, right? Now, environment can play a major role. And what I recently learned is that penis size is heavily influenced by a number of factors, right? Number one, of course, would be genetics, right? But not only that, nutrition, environmental factors, things outside of one's being, right? Maybe the food that one eats, maybe the environment that one is reared in. There are a lot of different things, hormones. There are different things, toxins in our environment that interact with our DNA. And you're going to be shaped by that, right? But at the end of the day, it's like you are left with what you're left with, right? And then there's meaning that's ascribed to that. We're talking about penis size here. Light of incense. But we're talking about penis size, and I mention penis size because I understand, even though I'm not a man, I definitely can understand the plight of men for whom penis size plays a major role in their identity. It makes a difference. It's a significant factor. I talked about this in the video that I made on the real reason why Brianna Hampton's Mrs. LaTruth's marriage is crumbling, has failed. You guys have to go back and watch that video. But I do believe that penis, or the functionality of her husband's penis, right, that unfortunately and untimely was impacted by him coming down with stomach cancer, it's heavily influenced by that. And therefore it will affect the intimacy in a relationship. Now, there's already strain, because relationships can be very dynamic. We're talking about something that is multi-layered, very complex in and of itself, given that we each come with our own set of individual characteristics, of our own history, traumas that we still wear, unhealed traumas, right? And then you cap that off with this debilitating medical condition that one is faced with, right? I mean, I get it, you guys have to go back. I'm not going to rehash that, but it definitely ties into what I'm talking about here in terms of dick imposter syndrome, or big dick imposter syndrome. Now, especially for Black men, we're talking about the culture here. Like, dick size and dick function is very important, right? It's a big part of who a man is, how a man is defined, right? And you can see that reflected in our music, in our movies, like in the media, things that represent Black culture is clearly defined. It's clearly indicated how important a man's penis size, right, and functionality is to his own identity. And his identity plays a major role in where he stands in this subculture, in the Black culture. Me being a woman, of course, being a single woman and having been on the dating scene, right, intermittently here and there and exploring my options and coming across the men, is like I get to witness this head on. And yeah, part of me, like, I'm very empathic and I can relate, and I'm just like, I'm saddened because they wear their insecurities on their sleeve. It's like ever clear that they're struggling with this, right? And then it kind of boils down to, the physicality of things, because that's how we define what a man is. It's a big part of it. There's no way around it, you guys. Now, for men who are non-Black who watch my videos, they have been honest enough to come to this realization, right? And like I said, there are men that fall on different parts of the spectrum when it comes to grappling with harsh realities, right? Of the package that they've been dealt, right? The cards that they've been dealt. And what I've noticed is that non-Black men, they have taken to other ways to kind of sublimate this inadequacy that they have, right? Being the size of their penis. They're lesser endowed, right? And so they sublimate that insecurity in a different way to kind of cope with it. One way being cuckolding, right? I think it's just amazing how just as people were able to adapt. I'm looking at my beautiful painting here. After this video, I'm going to come back and show you guys this. Oh my gosh. It's starting to really stand out to me and resonate, like how beautiful this painting is. But I'm definitely going to come back and do a video to show you guys what I've been working on this morning prior to me going live now. But yeah, it's like they've come to this acceptance, right? And realizing, like, listen, I'm lesser endowed. I'm not packing down there. Not only am I not packing, but I don't have the rhythm to deliver, right, a good sex performance for a woman to fully satiate her in her sexual needs, right? So they find other ways to please a woman, right? Being a cuckold, right? Allowing her to be pleased by other men. Now, of course, I made a video on the real reason why white men become cuckolds, and that reason still stands. Like, I stand tall and firm on anything that I've said. And I never said that to undermine the possibility of other reasons that men are drawn to this lifestyle of cuckolding, right? Of course, we know that there are many ways to skin a cat. There are many different reasons and different things that drive people's behavior, right? So we know that. That goes without saying, right? But I had to put it out there. The real reason, you guys go watch the video. The real reason, right? It's a backdoor approach, right? To them being sexually satisfied by the same sex by way of their female partner, them allowing, so to speak, their female partner to kind of sequester, to gain the interest of men, right? It's like the woman then becomes like the middleman, the link, right, for them to get their needs met. And I just saw a comment on one of my recent videos that I made, fetish versus abuse, and someone commented, I knew he was a man. Majority of my viewers are men. Overwhelmingly, I think it's like 98-99% men viewership on YouTube. I'm just like, God, how do I change the analytics? But it was a guy who commented, I think today, and he said, that men will be better off just dating trans women. And he did like LOL, right? Thought it was funny. And you know, I get it. I get a lot of things. But I'm like thinking to myself, don't hide. Don't hide behind the mask, you know, these alternative lifestyles when deep down inside, you know, that this is what you truly are. But people sometimes they'll create their own rationale, their own reasons for why they're drawn to, for example, homosexuality, right, or trans women, you know, or cuckolding or what have you, right? It's like this facade, this mask that they hide behind. It's just like you are who you are, right? You're attracted to who you're attracted to. Don't sit up here and try to twist the narrative and make it seem as though, okay, heterosexual women are the blame for why men are drawn to trans women. If that's what you like, bruh, that's what you like. People will find all kinds of excuses. And in fact, I would rather, and I've said this before, like I have much appreciation for men who are blatantly gay, because if that's your thing, that's your thing. For men who have come to terms with reality and who they are, to know enough to go ahead and decide and be comfortable with their decision that, you know what, my soulmate is another man. I cannot be that man for a woman, especially the man that society has concocted, this idea of a man, right? I would never live up to that idea. There are some men that have come to that reality. That's their position. They've accepted that. It's far beyond what they can reach. When you ask the average woman, what is your ideal man? Most women will say tall, right? 6 foot. Is it what, the 3 6s as they call it? 6 foot, 6 inches, 6 figures. The 3 6s. Funny enough, I just saw a statistic that there's a correlation between height and penis size. No wonder why women are drawn to taller men. I mean, within that construct, though, being a tall man, you know, embodies this idea of many different things, right? Not just one, not just penis size, but embodies many different attributes that women feel comfortable. Like it makes a woman feel safe and secure, right? A taller man is just something about the height that communicates safety. And I think it's an evolutionary standpoint, right, to be able to understand this concept. Not only that, penis size being correlated, right? And yes, penis size does matter for women. Not to say that, oh, you have to have an anaconda, right? And just be this like overwhelmingly big sized man between your legs, because that can have that can be counterproductive at times, you know, if it's too, there's such thing as too big, right? But yes, it matters. And if for a lot of men, you guys watching this, if you do not measure up, you cannot ascertain to this idealized expectation of what a man is, what a preferred man is in this society that we live in, right? We're talking about America here. Then it's okay. Just accept that. A lot of men, I think, they're struggling. That's their own internal struggle, right? And so whatever struggle that you have with other people is really the internal battle unresolved that you have within yourself. So of course, then I end up coming across these men, right? On my quest to find my life partner, the perfect man. And it's one thing for a person to be self-aware, right? No one is perfect. So I think that's a beauty in partnership and falling in love, is that you find this person who is a reflection of you, being imperfect, right? Embracing all of their imperfections, all of their flaws. But it's important, though, it's imperative that a person, these men, understand what their limitations are, what their weaknesses are, what their flaws are, and they have accepted that. That is the issue, right? Many men, unfortunately, are not at that point. They have not, so they carry this fake persona, right? And it comes off as arrogance. It comes off as being an imposter or fraud. It comes off as insecurities that they carry. And they project these things onto the women that they interact with. And then women like myself, we end up having to take the brunt of it, unfortunately. It's just like, damn, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be treated like this because you feel inadequate. And this is shit that you brought in before I came into the picture, right? These are things that you have been dealing with and struggling before I came into the picture. As a woman, it's very attuned to who I am, knowing who I am, embracing all of that, knowing my worth and my value. There's no way in heaven or earth that I could be with such a man. I stumble across those kind of men, of course, especially being in New York, like they're everywhere, right? But in seeing this man, and I usually spot it early on. I see things early on in a person, things that they don't even see in themselves. And that's when I usually say, you know what, this is not going to work, because despite this representative that a man may try to portray on the outside, I see right through it, and I'm just like, it's just ugly. I see ugliness, right? It's not attractive. This is a person who does not love themselves. I see it early on, and I may say to a man, like, we're not compatible, right? It's not going to work, and yet they insist. And I'm like, the compassionate part of me, that's my weakness, I admit, right? The compassionate part, the empathic part of me is just like, okay, and then I give them this opportunity. I walk this journey with them, knowing that how this shit is going to, it's not going to be well. Especially a woman of my caliber, like, I know exactly who I am. Like I said, flaws, and I accept who I am. I'm very confident. I'm very wise. And when a person is resting in their confidence, right, and then you're up against somebody who has these insecurities, known and unknown insecurities, right, and you come together, like I've said this before, my confidence will trigger your insecurities. It's going to eat your ass alive. And then we're going to keep bumping heads, right? It's this back and forth. It's this tension. This is the buildup. I don't want to have to deal with that. I just don't. I've dealt with that before. Right? So I tell men, like, listen, it's not that you're not a good man. You're just not a good man for me. And I want to release you back to the universe so that you can stumble across that woman who matches the point in your own development. Because I'm definitely beyond that. And then they take it as rejection. They feel rejected. No, you should not feel rejected. I've said this over, like, this is nothing new. This has happened to me several times. So much in that it's like a script that plays out. A memorized script, because I've said this so many times. It's like, listen, there is a woman for you. But they feel rejected, and even that rejection further triggers their insecurities, right? Like their demons are even more activated because they feel rejected. And this is how I know it's ever clear. It's another indicator, like, this man feels inadequate. This man suffers from imposter syndrome. Because a man that is sure of himself, man or woman, I can speak for myself, right? You are sure of who you are. Then you know that what is for you is for you. Yes, you may be optimistic about love, right? And you may set out with intentions, right? And you may even say, I'm not going to give up, right, on the relationship with this person, but we're talking about the beginning phase. We're just getting to know each other. If a person tells you, you know what, I think we should go down our different paths, right? Like, let them go. But for you to beg and plead and be insistent that this person be with you, it further shows your inadequacy. It further proves your insecurities. And it's just like this void that is within you. It's just growing bigger and bigger, right? And now you've already been looking at the world through this lens that you're not good enough, or in the world rejects you, no one wants to be with you, and so forth and so forth. And then this happens. You see how those insecurities are then reinforced. That's why healing is such an important piece to this puzzle. And people do not go to therapy. And if you feel like, okay, you know what, you're of the school that you don't believe in therapy or whatever, like, at least take some time to reflect within thyself. When you truly reflect, you spend time alone. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's another indicator, because these same men oftentimes cannot be alone. And they attempt to massage their insecurities by getting into these makeshift relationships to make them feel better about themselves. It's just like, you talking about some toxic shit, right? And there's this whole wave of men that somehow believe that, oh, polygamy is the answer. Now, listen, from a nation building perspective, you're talking to a conscious woman here. You're looking at a conscious, politically conscious woman. I'm all about race politics, right? I've been on the scene for a while now. So I get it. I understand the role of polygamy in that particular context. However, you have people that will take that, men specifically, and they're using polygamy. They're drawn to polygamy for all the wrong reasons. These are men who are not put together fully as a man. They're broken. And yet you want to somehow create this vision, this idea, to invite other women to be a part of your broken self, to assuage your insecurities, because I get it. Women, we are the prize. So the more women a man has, his value increases. Ironically, though, the more men a woman has, her value decreases. What does that say about the value of a man versus a woman? Have you ever thought about that? If you go out and you buy a car, a particular brand car, or clothing, or whatever the materialistic thing is that you attain, and that thing that you attain then makes your value go up, where is the value? Is it in you? Absolutely no. But it's in that particular thing that you have attained. Likewise, in the same vein, a man attaining women who are really objectified species, you're obtaining these objects, and your value then is increasing, or perceived value rather is increasing. Then it's clear where the value lies. It's not you, bruh. It's in those women. Without those women, then who are you? That's why I would recommend men watching this who suffer from imposter syndrome. I definitely would highly recommend. You want to get my take on this? Listen. Spend time alone. And then you have men that think that they do that, right? You don't do it the right way. You have to be alone, in isolation. So to the point where, there are so many revelations that happen when you're in isolation. I mean, by yourself. People don't take the time to do that, though. They don't. They're so caught up in the busyness of life on their cell phones, right? And they need that constant reassurance, whether it's through family members that they're communicating with, through friends that they're communicating with. Somebody always has to be on the other side of that, in their palm, reassuring them. But who are you independent of that, though? I can say that because I practice that. I practice isolation extensively. That's why when I'm up against anything, right? Any environment that I go, like I stand out. I am very confident in who I am. It shows, it emanates. That's why when you ask a question like, why are people drawn to me? I get asked this a lot. Why are they looking at me? Because they see something in me that they want. I am a role model. Whether I want to be or not, I am. People do look up to me. And that's a huge responsibility, right, that I have. But it's just like, I can be alone. And I've always been this way. Thankfully, it's just my personality. You know, some people, they have to, like, along their path, along their journey, have to learn to be alone. For me, it just comes natural. And I can stand firm in that. You got people that say, well, they'd be alone too. They're not really alone though, right? Because they have these social interactions with people. That's not aloneness. That's not isolation. You still have people around you that you're inviting over, that you're going out with for drinks, or you're doing, like, be alone. Try that. Can you do that for 3 months straight? 6 months straight? I've practiced that so many times, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, you learn so much about yourself because that's all you have, right? You can't attribute blame to anybody else. You can't try to project things onto other people, right? There's no mirror. There's only yourself that you're looking at. There's nothing else reflecting back to you but yourself. When you are alone in isolation, all you have is you. And it's a beauty in that. It's a strength that you gain in being alone, so that when you have spent a significant amount of time in isolation, right, and it has achieved its full purpose for what it needs to do in you, and then you go around people, everything opens up, right? Like, your perspective on life opens up so much to a greater degree, and especially when it comes to intimate relationships. It's just like, wow. Then you become that blank slate for people, right? That then people project their insecurities onto you, and then you can stand firm and be who you are, right? Independent, even though you are relating to this person, getting to know this person, you can still stand firm in who you are, right? Independent of their insecurities. The issue then, however, is that when you don't spend that time in isolation, you don't fully know yourself, you're not a fully whole being, all right? Then you become dependent, codependent upon other people to substantiate who you are, to fill all these empty voids that you carry with you from your unhealed childhood. This is a fact. Coming across men like that, right, who suffer from, like, imposter dick, and I say dick, I have to put the dick in there, right? Because, like I said, a lot of men lead with that. They lead with sex. Speaking of which, a lot of men, I think, are afraid because they suffer from dick imposter syndrome. Like, they know, first of all, they feel inadequate in and of themselves, and then they feel inadequate in their ability to perform in the bedroom with the woman. Those men oftentimes don't have sex. They choose not to have sex because, imagine in your mind you have created this false reality that, oh, you're the man. Somehow you told yourself, that you convinced you had to, right? That's your way of adapting to rejection, to these voids that you have within you. You have to build yourself up. You have to speak these positive affirmations, whether true or false, but you create this reality, this narrative in your mind of a person, of an ego that may be able to make it day to day in the world until it's tested. right? But imagine a person like that whose ego is very fragile. It's easy. I'm going to give a few examples before I wrap this video up of men that, oh my God, talking about fragile egos, right? And this is where I know like it's a need for healing to take place. It's so detrimental. But imagine a man like that, and then like you get with the woman in all her glory, a woman who is confident in and of herself. Not to say all women are, because there are women who mirror men in their insecurities and their sense of inadequacies, right? Who have this just fakeness and phoniness about them. They don't know who they are. And there's a man like this, and you come across a woman who is very much secure, is going to show. It shows in so many ways. I gave the example. It has to be over a year now. But when I moved to Upper East Side in 2020, and I went on this date. I met this Puerto Rican guy, I think from a dating app. And that's why sometimes I go into these spells of isolation where I don't even want to date. And it has been over 2 years since I've actually been intimate with a man. I have not had intercourse in over 2 years, right? The last time was like January 2021. But I do this because I feel sometimes dating can be so frustrating. Of course, there's no perfect man, but it's just like, damn, can I at least find my equal, my match, and what I bring? For men who like, what do you bring to the table? Fuck the materialistic shit. Fuck what a person can do. Who is this person internally? That's what we really need to be talking about. That's gonna be my next video. What do I bring to the table, right? Just, it's more of a rhetorical question or statement. But I think it's very interesting that that's kind of like the narrative that's being spewed out by men. A lot of these men of which are imposters because they are projecting. It's a rhetorical statement. When they ask a woman, what do you bring to the table? It's because they bring baggage. They often say, I don't want a woman with baggage. Listen, we do all have baggage. However, it's how that baggage is packaged. Has it been unpacked? Are you aware? A lot of people aren't. They're in denial, and those are the most dangerous people. When you hear a person, I don't have any baggage. Oh no, not me, not I. I am fully healed. Beware of that person. Beware, because they have no knowledge of self. But yeah, we're gonna address that. I'm gonna come back and definitely address that narrative of what people bring to the table, what women bring to the table. It's a lot of work that needs to be done. But yeah, going back to the story. So this Puerto Rican guy, and granted, on the surface, he seemed like he brought a lot, right? That's why we can't go by what a person can do for you or what a person financial status is. Like, fuck all of that. It's the inside. Those things on the inside, most people, the untrained eye cannot see. But it comes out though, and it's revealed. And I saw that in him where we're like going on a date. We're on a few dates. I think our first date was like, we're just meeting up, right, to confirm who we are face to face. And I think it was like Central Park. We decided to meet. I don't live that far from Central Park. I live within walking distance from there. And I get there before he does, which I was annoyed by that, right? But I let it slide. And then he shows up maybe like, I don't know, 5-7 minutes after I get there. So it wasn't that big of a gap difference, right? In the time that we arrive. But what I noticed is like he had a nervous energy. And that, to me, was a big indicator like, yo, we are not compatible. And I said that to him. It's funny, yo. It's funny that I see it early on. Now, one person looking at this video from the outside looking in and say, "Oh, we just give the guy, just give him a chance, just give him a chance. You can grow with them. You can help." Like, I've had people that comment, you can help these women actually. You can help these men up. Like, you can basically build a bear kind of thing, right? Why do I have to build a bear? Hell, it should be the other way around. If anybody building anything, why can't a man build my ass up? But the issue, I'm already put together. I'm already built from the inside out. Not that I'm perfect, but like I say, I'm very attuned to who I am. And then, so we meet, and he's trembling. Of course, we're happy to see each other. We meet. And I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and it's just he's nervous. He's shook. And we talked about it. Of course we talked about it. He's sweating. I'm just like, why are you? He's sweating. I'm like, okay. And this is not the first. When I say I notice patterns, Joe, that's why I'm doing this video, because I notice patterns. It cannot be. Am I that powerful of a woman that men are trembling around me and they're sweating? Because that's not the first and last time that's happened. And you're talking about annoyed. This is and then I'm criticized because I put it out there that I want a dominant man, a true dominant man, not an imposter, big dick energy, wannabe having man, but a true, because true doms, I know what that energy feels like. It's pure, it's organic, it's not forced. And they're not trembling. Not to say that they are not impacted, by me, because I'm a force. They feel my energy, but they're not trembling. They're captivated, yes. But trembling in the sense that I am intimidating. I intimidate you? I've had men tell me this, and it's just even recently that's happened to me. I'm just you are intimidated. Asking this person, why on our date it felt like you were afraid to assert yourself, even assert your perception of me and your likeness to me, or your liking to me, or whatever, right? Why not just say, oh yes, I like you, or I feel, passionate about you and I want to kiss you. It's he's like, oh, well, it was your energy. I don't want to be more powerful than a man. I don't. Because this is what I have to deal with, right? It's this hesitation. It's this intimidation. What? And then it turns into jealousy, and then it turns into bitterness and hatred and envy. I know, because I've been down this path, and it becomes abusive. It's just I don't want that. Granted, being a woman of my caliber, I'm aware statistically that the numbers don't match up, right? Especially if I wanted to find my equal, I have to date outside my race damn near. And I don't want to do that as a pro-black woman. You get what I'm saying? To date a man, of course he won't be perfect, but he'll at least match my caliber inside and out. I know that those men exist. The issue is that the men that the universe has sent to me have put on these representatives. They have their own place. The Puerto Rican guy that I was just talking about, he had his own place in the Bronx. Nice place, right? Financially stable, physically attractive, all of these things, no kids, right? That's usually the initial criteria, right? Before, that's the first layer. You get past that, you qualify, and you meet that criteria, okay, we can move forward, right? So even the guy recently, had his own place, right? Physically attractive enough. I want to say oh, he's eye candy necessarily, but enough, right? For me to date and look at. No kids. So they present this facade on the outside as like, okay, you're good to go. But then uncovering that, and maybe, ignorance is bliss, right? I know too much. Sometimes I wish, like, damn, if I was a teenager, I wouldn't even see all of these things that I see, the things I'm communicating and talking to you guys about. Not to say that I'll be completely remiss, no, but it's just like you have a degree of innocence about you as a younger person, that you haven't had that much life experience, that you just don't know. You don't have the lessons, the knowledge, right? The wherewithal. And on top of that, you're more open to experience, more adventurous. Now, I'm still adventurous. That hasn't left me. But it's just like, I know too goddamn much. I just know. I'm more spiritually attuned, fine-tuned, that I see right through it. I see right through the facade. And that's why early on I tell these, like, it's not going to work. And then they're the ones trying to persist. Like, come on, let's make it work. Come on. You didn't give me a chance. It's like, but I see something maybe you don't even see within yourself. I see this package that may look good on the outside, but it's not pretty on the inside. And will I be willing to grow and heal with the person? Of course. That would be a beautiful love story, but it's just like these people have to have a degree of self-awareness, which they don't. And I get it, because it's like, you, on one hand, as a man, you got to maintain this macho-ness, this image, this facade that makes you feel confident as a man, when you're crumbling on the inside. And that is not beneficial to anyone. It's just not. Right? And then they do things to overcompensate for these insecurities, which oftentimes negatively impact their relationship with women. Right? Because they're insecure, then they have to kind of go overboard and step outside different boundaries in a relationship to make themselves feel insecure. Another video topic of why men cheat. Not to say this explains all the reasons why men cheat, or the main reason, but I do think that much of cheating is attributed to a lack of a sense of security in men. Similar to the idea of getting a bunch of women, right, at one time in a polygamous relationship. It's just like you're overcompensating. You need these external things to fill all these voids. And that's what cheating does. At least in the moment, it's like a temporary panacea, a little Band-Aid. It makes you feel good in the moment, and then you go to the next. In essence, these women aren't really human to you. They're not really people with emotion. They're not like fully fledged, understood beings. These are objects that you're using. I get it. It's no judgment zone here. Y'all know that. I'm just putting it on, I'm laying it on the table for a discussion. People aren't willing to have these conversations because it becomes about finger pointing, right? It's difficult. It's difficult to have these real, true conversations. Maybe it's difficult to hear it coming from a woman. If it was a man saying this, you might receive it differently, right? But it's really about just taking a look within thyself. And for me, being a woman, having to deal with this, right, and come across men that are like this, that suffer from these imposter syndrome, dick imposter syndromes. Listen, dick is a big deal, right? I get it. They're fearful. They're fearful of rejection, right? And they're so, like, it creates this guard. It creates a boundary, right? Men often want to look at women as women being guarded, and I got to tear down the guard and break down the walls and all of this. But if anything, men are definitely guarded in their own ways, and it shows. It's like human beings. Let's not go with men or women, but human beings, we're just wanting to protect ourselves and make ourselves feel safe and secure. And we'll do that at any expense, even if it means you're the one paying for it, That's why for me, I am not necessarily in a rush to be in love. Like, I'm not. Of course, it's an idea, right? And it's an idea that makes me feel warmth, especially the idea being imagined in a particular way. But I'm not in a rush because I'm like, just a lot of people, they just don't measure up, right? You can have your own place. You can have 2, 3, 5 cars, right? That doesn't mean anything. Of course, it's important that you're financially secure and stable. But I think what's even more important is that you know who you are. You know your flaws. You take accountability for your flaws yourself, right? And don't assume that blame, don't project that blame onto your woman, because that shit is unattractive. And you have, that shit is going down in many relationships. A lot of women, like, they pay the price, I made a video like talking about the real reason why Mrs. The Truth marriage failed, and that's a prime example because it's just readily there, right? It's on the surface. They're living their lives out loud, right? So it's all over social media. And just to see all this pain that a person has to go through, not just on her side, on both sides. And that's even talked about that. You have to go watch the video. I think sometimes people just automatically assume because I am a woman that I take the woman's side. No, watch the video. Okay, right? Because it's about taking accountability, but it's just like when people don't take accountability, then they carry that in every relationship, and the other person has to suffer. The other person has to suffer from your lack of accountability. And that sucks. That fucking sucks, right? I'm about to say this. I'm going to wrap this video up, and I'm going to definitely come back and I got to show you. I'm looking over there. I'm going to show you guys my painting. It's funny because I actually drew it. It has to be over a month that I drew this painting and this piece of art, and then I just painted it today. But the thing about me is because I'm so adventurous, and because pain sometimes doesn't I don't run away from pain necessarily, not physical pain, that is, necessarily. Emotional pain, like a lot of things could be red flags, and I'm like, hell no, I'm out. This ain't what it is, right? But it's just like being an adventurous person, like I be with the shits too, and I'm just like, but then I also do my own self-evaluation, and I ask myself, how does this relationship with this particular person serve me? How is it going to impact where I am in my life right now? From a man's perspective, for men who are dealing with the imposter syndrome, and that men who, have to deal with rejection, and are wondering like, why can't this work, right? And it's just like, don't take it personal though. And I think if anything, it's for both persons' benefit that people are honest with themselves to see early on. And I think this is a skill, right, that everyone should have, to be able to see. You should be able to know and look and see how things will play out before they play out. Just knowing yourself, but you have to know yourself. A lot of people don't. Knowing yourself and seeing different attributes and characteristics in another person, putting those two together, you know how some shit is going to play out in a relationship. And you ask yourself, is this beneficial to me? Or are you just so desperate to be with someone because you need to have someone? to validate who you are. And that is the problem. That's the sum of my video, right? That is the problem. If you feel that you cannot be alone, you need to have someone absolutely, like, that is a problem. You should be able to be alone. Yes, we do need each other. We do. But you need yourself more. You need yourself to be whole. In a video that I made several years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago actually, where I talked about it's not another person's responsibility to make their partner happy. Because you hear that narrative. I listen to the words that people put together, and how people string words together communicates a lot about that person's attitudes and how they deal with problems in their life. It says so much, right? And you often hear people say, oh, she don't make me happy, or he doesn't make me happy. And I'm like, how self-centered and unfair is that? For you to think that it's another person's job that you're dating or your partner with to make you happy. You should be happy independent of that person. Now, can a person or relationship add to your happiness? Of course. But it is not their job to make you happy. And that's where the trap is, because people sign up for that. They enter into these spiritual contracts with other people under the assumption that it is the other person's job to make them happy. Yeah, go watch that video. I'm going to find that video. I'm going to repost it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And I made my point very clear, and I broke it down. And when I broke it down, I made people think. And so another person who was watching my video, he had to reframe the question to say, well, maybe it's her job to satisfy. I would want my wife to satisfy me. But even that, I just think that it's backwards that we enter into relationships asking ourselves and the other person, what can you do for me? Because it's just an indication that we are just some empty ass people. We're so needy. A lot of people have mommy and daddy issues, right? Your mom was this person that showed up in a certain way or didn't show up. And now you're seeking a person to fulfill that role that your mother had for you. A woman is not your mother. I just saw this video about these gender roles and this idea that men want women to cook and clean. Like, you want a woman to be your mommy, to feed you. And that's a whole love language. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, though. But sometimes we got to take it a step further to look deep within ourselves to really see, what is this really about? And why is a woman cooking for me? Why is that my love language? I have to look within myself. For me, I like quality time. We all have a right to know our own love language, right? And to embrace it. It is our love language, is our love language. But taking it a step beyond acknowledging and being able to identify what your love language is, and being able to ask your significant other, can they fulfill that need? Take it a step further to ask, why is this my love language? Why do I like a woman to feed me? Why do I, not even that you like, right? Beyond liking, you need this to feel love. Why do you need that? Right? For myself, I like quality time. But why do I need a man to spend quality time? Could that be saying something? But yeah, the idea of a person filling this void of unhappiness, needing a person to make you feel happy. That is an immeasurable amount of work to do to make another person happy. Even in the context of therapy, A therapist, I cannot make a patient or a client happy. Now, granted, I can tell jokes. I can do a number of things to help improve a person's mood. But if my whole job is solely dependent upon me making someone, you know how draining that shit is? For a person who already comes into that dynamic depressed, which a lot of people are, a lot of people have voids, If we fucked up, just admit it, right? The context in which we have been reared in this society, we're talking about for Black people, race trauma, generational trauma, childhood trauma, dating trauma, all these things that have shaped who we are and the being that we have come to be and how we interact with other people. And now we're seeking someone to make us feel whole. Because that's what happiness is. It's a wholeness. You have to ask yourself, what does that look like? What does it mean to be happy? I heard a quote. I saw this quote that said, if you're angry, that means you're stuck in the past. If you feel anger, right? Then you're ruminating. The past is still impacting you. And if you're anxious, the future, something that hadn't even happened yet, has held you hostage. But if you're living in the present moment, you have to be at peace. If you're fully present in the present moment, right? And that kind of goes back to my love language. There's just something magical about two people existing in the same space and time, being fully present. Cell phones away, right? You're not distracted by text messages and other people, right? That's an interference, right? You're not thinking about plans for the next day or what happened the day before or years before or whatever. Like, you are fully present with this person in the moment, the only moment that you have full control over. But we're robbed of that experience. And that's the reason why we're not happy. But you want somebody else to make you happy. Goes back to isolation, the whole benefit of being isolated. If you can fully sit isolated, being by yourself, you will find happiness. Initially, it's like weaning yourself off of a drug, right? But once you get past those beginning stages, the first week, the first 21 days, like, it becomes easier, right? And you truly do find happiness, right? You find not only happiness, because within that, embedded in being in solitude, is you find meaning. And finding meaning embedded within that is hope, is purpose, is happiness. That's going to bring you happiness, right? When you have met your purpose and the meaning and understood that fully, and you fully embrace that, right? You're not obsessed about money. I gotta get money. Like, people have to understand, we live in this reality that has been created long before we came into this earth plane, right? Much of which is superficial. Now I'm about to get metaphysical, right? And yes, naturally as human beings, we're going to find a way to adapt, even in the most inhumane and unnatural situations, right? Because we have innately within us this drive to survive. So we know this type of society in the world that we live in is rooted in capitalism. That's just the name of the game. Water costs money. To breathe costs money, right? To stand in a certain place, it costs money, right? And I think if we're not self-conscious, we're not fully aware, self-aware, always being aware of where we are at in respect, in relation to our environment, right? Then we become a product of that environment. And you just on the rat race, right? On the rat wheel, And of course, anyone can make an argument to be on either side of this, right? But I think, we can argue all day. It's not about, for me, it's never about arguing. It's never about trying to prove a point or anything. It's about you coming to a full awakening of what is, understanding who you are through that process, and then you make a decision for yourself. I'm not here to argue with anyone, right? I know where I stand and who I am, and being a woman who has traveled around the sun 39 times, going on 40, I can say with absolute certainty that I know that there is a state of a level of peace when you can remove yourself from the matrix. A lot of times people think removing themselves from the matrix means physically. And it may take some actual physical changes, but it really starts in your mind, y'all. Taking control of your mind. And I may say things when I interact with people, and this is the beauty in relationship with other people, because that's how we sharpen ourselves, right? We're able to see ourselves reflected back to us. And I'm a master at doing that with other people. I can reflect to a person back what I see, right? Like I'm a mirror to them. And I said this recently to a person, like, you are obsessed with chasing something that you do not have. And it triggered this person. And I'm like, why are you triggered? Now, this is a person, like I say, for me, when it comes to relating to people, friendships, dating, I only want to gravitate to people who have a degree of self-awareness and awakening, right? Call it being woke or whatever you want to call it. But people who are just on the right path. And it strikes me a certain kind of way when, yes, people may have this facade, but then you interact with them, you see, they not really about what they say they about. They ain't really about that life. You're not really about that life because you're still impacted by the matrix. You're still absorbed. You're so absorbed in this matrix that you don't even see how it has impacted you and is continuing to impact you. You're so absorbed. You're so obsessed and consumed with making money. And what is money? Right? And a person might say, we need money to survive. Of course, I know that I'm being a little bit tangential, but it all relates, right? Tie it back in. I'm about to wrap this video up. But it's just like, no. When a person truly has ascended, right, and has ascended beyond this physical earth realm, it's not that you don't know the value or the importance of money. I live in New York. I live in Upper East Side, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in New York City, to say the least. But so it's not to say I don't know the importance of fucking money, right? What I'm saying, though, is that for me, it's about what you attract. It's not about what you chase. You can chase something all day and you never get it. And that's usually what happens. People chasing money. They chase love. They chase a number of things. They never get it. It's about what you attract. You don't have to chase anything when you attract it. But that's for another video. That's for another video. Some people don't truly believe it, so they can't manifest it. You can't manifest something you don't fully believe. I've been there. This is not something I just realized. I've been realized. That's the reason why, anything that I've set my mind on, my mind is set on it. I'm not obsessed with it. There's a difference. but I imagine it. I know that it is true. I know that it is. I know that it was. I know that I may not have materialized it, but I never worried about things like I don't worry about things like I don't obsess. It doesn't keep me up at night. It just doesn't. It doesn't control my life. If anything, I control it. It doesn't control my life. Right? And so it just goes back to the imposter. It's like people not knowing who they are. You know, I come across people like that. And yes, it's disturbing. It's annoying. It's frustrating. Yeah. So I choose to be in the space that I am, which is in a place of solitude. I am a teacher, though, if anything, and I take pride and joy in being able to teach lessons from my own personal experience and share those with you guys here on my platform, even people in real life. I look at things different, a lot of things differently in life. And what bothers some people and may affect people in different ways usually has no bearings on me in that way. I can talk about it and I release it. I like to have fun with you guys, though. For those who watch my videos, no matter your ethnic background and what part of the world you're watching from, you know, it's about accepting who you are. Which makes me think, like, how people live through 3, 4, 5 decades and then they somehow just come to understand who they really are. Like, oh, like, I'm really a man that likes men. Or maybe they just come to a level of comfortability and standing in that truth. I've had this discussion before. And it's like you always probably were homosexual or you were, sexually fluid, so to speak. You always were that. You just came to accept that, and your drive and who you are far outweigh the voices from society telling you you shouldn't do this, right? Or this is bad, That usually happens as we get older in life. Your voice grows louder than the voices of society, right? Like when we're young, it's other people's voice that is loud, right? Directing the course. It's first our parents, right? Whoever was our caretaker. We internalize their voice. Even so much that when we're not in that person's presence, we can still we can hear them telling us, don't do that, or this is going to happen if you do that, whatever, right? And they're constantly directing you and telling you what you should and you shouldn't do, right? And then for some people, that voice follows them, even through their adulthood, beyond teenage years. They're still driven by what their parents or caretakers told them how they should be, who they are. And oftentimes it fuels their own inadequacies too, because those interjections oftentimes are negative that people carry with them from childhood, unfortunately. But then the beauty of adulthood is that we let go of that, or we come to terms with being able to find the balance between other people's voice and our own. We're able to make that distinction. Oh, that was their voice, but I have a voice. That was their attitude, but I have a perspective, right? And you live in that truth. Nothing sexier, though. I can say this. Nothing sexier than a man knowing who he is. Like, knowing. I always knew who I was from birth. Thank God. Some of us are just like that. It's just like we're born, like we've been here before. And almost our parents really couldn't do shit with us because it's just like, this girl, she is like well beyond her years. Teaching adults. That's how I was as a child, right? Just very attuned. I always been to myself as a child. My family didn't like it. My mom was like, oh, you in that room. You always in that room by yourself. You always in that room. Yes, right? I see the end before the end happens. I knew the end then. It's just like, just as a spiritual being, it's just about being a spiritual being, right? And knowing that, we're passing through this realm, this earth realm. And there are some kids like that. It's just like you look at that kid's eyes and you can tell that kid been here before. That kid knows this stuff. That kid knows way more than probably what you know, right? You look at that little kid's eyes and you're just like, you can learn some things from that kid. I definitely was that kid. So being the woman I am now and being, obviously fully matured and even more spiritually fine-tuned, I do expect a certain standard of a man, of a friend. I'm hungry. I have not really eaten yet. And what time is it? I know it's kind of late, but I'm going to wrap this video up. You guys, share your comments below. I'm about to come back and do a video showing you guys my painting that I did. I'm thinking about dedicating it to my mother who just transitioned to be with the ancestors last Friday. And her burial was yesterday, Saturday, June 3rd. I'm thinking about dedicating the painting to her. So I'm going to come back and do a video after this. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Yes, feel free to drop your comments below. Feel free to share this video. And peace and love and light to everyone.